This is the new Audi Q8 and it's got one of the biggest mouths of any car on sale. I mean, basically what Audi has done is taken its normal grille and then fitted it with what seems like a dentist's mouthpiece. It's as though it's going to have its wisdom teeth out. Now Audi, in its wisdom, has copied BMW by creating an SUV coupe. So this is Audi's version of the BMW X6. Now, these SUV coupes are a little bit more expensive than the SUVs on which they're based. So this is based on the Q7. So for instance, it starts from £65,000, but if you go to CarWow, you can save an average of £3,000 on one of these Q8s. Now, if you're thinking about buying one of these, or any new car for that matter, click on the pop-out button in the top right-hand corner of the screen to see how much you can save on a new car at CarWow. Like I just said, the Q8 is based on the Q7, but unlike that car, it's not got 7 seats, it's a 5-seater only, but it's a brilliant 5-seater. For starters, it's dead easy to get in because you've got these huge rear doors. Now, that does make them a bit hard to open in tight spaces and you might end up banging other cars. It'd be bad, but makes it dead easy, like I say, to get in and out. Look, there's loads of room and the seat is just at the perfect height for you to sit on too, so it shouldn't be too hard for elderly relatives or kids to get into the back, like in some tall SUVs. Now, if I just shuffle across, I can show you how much room I've got here. So headroom, that's all right, look at that. Knee room is amazing, and because the front seats are quite raised up, you can really stretch out, and it's just like being in a limousine. It's incredible. Now, I can recline these seats to make it as comfortable as possible, and for a £350 extra, you can have them sliding, so you can increase the boot space, and even with them in the most forward position, look, I've got about as much knee room then as in an Audi A3, so that's all good. Other things to note are that, yeah, you've got 3 seats across the back here. This middle one is a bit narrower, but it's actually all right. And even though there is this hump in the floor, because the footwells are huge, it's not too bad. It's all right for the middle person. Really, the only problem is that if you've got 2 taller people in the back, they get pushed to the sides, and then this sloping roof does eat into the headspace when you're sitting right at the edge there like that. So with 3 in the back, it's not so great for the people on the outside, but fine for the person in the middle, which is a little bit unusual. Now, this particular car, it's got 4-zone climate control, and we've got digital controls here which are pretty snazzy. Down below you've got USB inputs there and a 12-volt socket, so that should help keep the kids happy with all their electronic devices. So too with the fact that you've got some huge rear windows, and this ledge isn't too high, so smaller people can see out. Now, if you need to carry longer items, you can just fold down this middle seat and you can have like skis or whatever in here, and 2 people sat in the outer 2 seats, or if there's no one there, you fold this down and you've got a couple of cup holders or an armrest. In terms of other storage, the door pins in the back of this car are massive. Look, that's a big ball, fits in there, no problem at all. And then you've got some storage nets there, though the elastic is a little bit saggy, like some old knickers. Now, if I move to the back end of this car, you'll see that it's actually been styled, look at this, to look like an Audi Quattro from the 80s. So that's one for the car geeks. Now, one for the families is the fact that this car's boot is pretty large. Actually, as standard, you get an automated tailgate. Now, the size of it is actually quite a bit bigger than that of a Range Rover Sport, and it's a little bit bigger than that you'll find in a BMW X6. Now, there's a bit of a load lip to lift stuff across. Now, that's not too much of a problem. What's probably more of an issue is the fact that the boot is quite shallow just here at the opening because of the sloped rear. You don't have such a problem on the Q7, which is square at the back end. So if you try and load things like upright or pack it right to the rafters, the boot doesn't like it much, as you can see. Now, it's not all bad though. There's plenty of space in here. It's a nice square shape otherwise. You've got things like a 12-volt socket there, which is good for plugging in a vacuum to clean out the boot with. There's some bits and pieces storage under here, along with the tyre repair kit. There's no spare wheel on this particular car I've got here. You can store some various things in here. And look, there's specific netted areas, which is ideal for your organic spinach. And look, this one's ideal for celery. How cool is that? Then there's some tethering points here. And I like the fact you've got these LED lights there, which help illuminate the boot. Now, if you want to carry larger items, you can't just do it from here. You have to walk around to the seats, because that's where you fold them down here at the seat bases, and they just snap into place. Got to be careful with this one because it's spring loaded. Don't want to get smacked in the head. Let me just close this door. Yeah, it is a bit of a faff having to do that. And also, look, the load space isn't completely flat. It's a bit inclined there, but it's not too bad. Now, if you want more detail on this car's practicality, click on the pop-out button in the top right-hand corner of the screen, and you can see just how much stuff you can fit in this car's boot, what it's really like with 3 adults in the back, and just how easy it is to fit a child seat. Now, this new Q8 gets Audi's new interior design. So it has a nicer dash than in the Q7. So it's very similar to the one that you get in the A7, and it looks absolutely lovely. So everything feels very high quality. There's no rattles or movement in the trim, and I really like the damped effect of this armrest. Feels like an expensive car, and it should do too, because it is quite expensive. Now, this particular one I'm sat in has leather upgraded here on the doors, and more importantly, here on the dash. It makes it feel like a premium product. The only problem is you have to pay for that. So that upgrade will cost you £3,000. And in case you're wondering, you could buy 5 fully grown live cows for that much money. I know that because I looked it up. I was thinking of getting one as a pet. After all, if you got bored of it, you could just eat it. Now, one of the standout features is this new infotainment system. So look, if I turn it off, the screen blanks out and it looks like a seamless part of the dash. To use, it's pretty good when you're sat still. So it's a touch screen, but it clicks and it vibrates like that when you press a button. So you know you've definitely pressed it. It's quite easy to swipe through the different menus. Now down below is another screen which controls all things like your climate control, your heat seating and cooling if you've got it. So that is pretty easy to use as well. The issue comes when you're driving along. So older Audis have like this swivel wheel which you can control, so you can just hold the wheel and operate it while you're driving. This, being a touchscreen, you have to look down, and because the climate controls aren't just like a button, like a volume button you can quickly swivel, it's harder to operate it when you're driving. Thankfully, you can operate most of the stuff on the top screen here through the digital driver's display, so you can scroll through different settings and menus, the navigation, your phone, the radio media system. You can also change the views as well and have full widescreen satellite navigation, which is very, very cool. I like that. So you're better off using that while you're driving. Now, if you want full details on this car's infotainment system and for another look around the cabin, click on the pop-out banner in the top right-hand corner of the screen to watch my detailed infotainment review. I've just noticed something a little bit annoying, something that's very an Audi. This gap here. Look, you can, I don't know, maybe it's there to store your credit cards. I think it's something to do with the fact that the screen has to vibrate. What I can't complain about though is the seating position. So there's loads of adjustment in it. If you're a basketball player, you're gonna find enough room in this car. Look at that. I can't reach the pedals now. And if you're super short, you're gonna be all right as well. Though there is one thing to watch out for though. This sloping windscreen does mean that if you like to sit at very, very close, you're gonna be a bit close to the roof line. Other than that though, it's nice. And you can also get electric adjustment for the steering wheel. Thing is, that is a £400 option, and you're probably going to set it once and not really use it again. So what a waste of money that would be. Speaking of kit, all models start the S-line trim, and you get lots of kit as standard. You get 21-inch alloy wheels, all LED headlamps. You get leather and Alcantara seats. The seats in this car are actually the upgraded sport seats. These are £2,500. And I've noticed 2 problems with them. One is the fact the headrest is integrated, so you can't alter it at all, and it blocks the view somewhat for the people behind, a bit more so than the normal seats. And on this particular car, well, it's got these side bolsters that squeeze you into place using air bladders to hold you firmly when you get in. The air bladder in this one seems to have broken. It's a little bit deflated. I haven't seen that before in one of these cars, so hopefully that's a one-off, but it's not great, is it? Anyway, moving swiftly on to storage, something better. Got a big glove box. There's cup holders there, and they are big enough to hold a coffee cup as well. And we've got some huge side door bins, look, very large as well. Plus there's a little bit of extra storage down here, and it's felt lined, so whatever you put in there doesn't rattle about. Good place to hide your mobile phone and then totally forget about it and think that you've lost it. Hopefully I'll remember that's there. If not, please remind me in the comments below. Now then, it's time for the CarWow 5 annoying things about this car. The rear windows don't go down particularly far. It's barely halfway. That is it. That is literally it. This car has the fakest of fake exhaust, as I'll illustrate now with a rather large CarWow stick of truth. Look at this. Enough said. Well, the voice commands can understand normal-ish speak, such as, take me to McDonald's.
I'll search for McDonald's nearby.
Cool. The only problem is that what you can actually say is still very limited. For instance, it's just like sat-nav radio stations and the temperature up and down. You can't do things like the heated seats or anything more clever than that. It's a bit disappointing, really. Well, this low cover is very easy to operate. and simple to remove, plus very light. Unfortunately, there's nowhere to store it in the car when it's not in use other than in the boot, taking up space. For some reason, you can't assign the driving mode selector to this little shortcut button on the steering wheel like you can in some other Audis, and you really want to in this car because the drive select modes are actually down here, and as they're part of the touchscreen, you can't really feel where they are. Why did you do that, Audi? It's really annoying.
Don't worry, there's still plenty to like about this car. Here's the CarWow 5 cool features.
The rear lights do this cool little dance when you lock the car. And they do it again when you open it. The fronts do a similar thing, but you'll have to watch my video review of the A7 to see that. You can get the Q8 with all-wheel steering. And at high speeds, the back wheels move in the same direction as the front wheels to aid high-speed stability. Then at lower speeds, they move in the opposite direction of the front wheels to aid manoeuvrability. And actually, this car has the same turning circle pretty much as the much smaller A3. As well as the normal reversing camera, which you get as standard, you can upgrade to surround view cameras, and you can do lots of cool stuff with that because you can view the car from various angles, check your alloy wheels, make sure you don't curb them, look at the top of the car, look forward, do a normal view or a widescreen view, or go for a full 3D mode, which allows you to look around the car from various angles like that. Look, it's insane. It's like playing a video game. Check this out, the Q8 has frameless windows. How cool is that on an SUV? Normally you only find it on a sports car. Let's just say you're too feeble to push the door shut. Don't worry, it's got self-closing. The Q8 has air suspension as standard, and you can lower the boot height by pressing a button in the boot, which is handy. So that makes it easy to load heavy items into the back, and it's also good if you've got an old dog and you don't want it to have to jump down too far to get out. Woof. Now it might be a big car, but this Q8 is very easy to drive in town. So you might not sit quite as high as you do in something like a Range Rover, but the view out is still pretty good. This car's steering is so light. I mean, look at that, I can do it with my fingertips. If you're trying to do U-turns and weave around things in town, that's great. And of course, if you've got the rear wheel steering, then it's super easy. I also like the suspension, so the air suspension is super comfy over bumps. I mean, it just irons them out in the road. Even though this car is riding on 22-inch wheels. One thing I'm not so keen on though is the response of the automatic gearbox. So let's say you see a gap in traffic, you floor the throttle to make it. That was a 2 or 3 second delay. It's insane, it's just gonna leave you floundering. Now you can of course put the gearbox into sports mode, and it does make it a little bit more responsive, but not by much. Still, once you are up to speed, this gearbox does blend the gears together pretty well. Oh, and look, you can change gears yourself if you have this upgraded steering wheel. So this car I'm driving here is the 3-litre V6 diesel with 286 horsepower. You can go from 0 to 60 in about 6.3 seconds. It does make a bit of a rorty sound. It's a bit diesely in the noise that it makes. However, this engine does have a 48-volt system rather than the normal 12-volt you have with most cars, and that means it's got mild hybrid technology. The car knows when you can coast, and it will vibrate the accelerator pedal to encourage you to lift off the pedal, and then the car will just freewheel, and that helps it save fuel. Also, the stop-start system can cut the engine before you come to an actual stop, and the combined effect of that is improved economy apparently. So what am I getting out of this car? 34 miles per gallon, which is just okay. So I'm not sure just how well those clever systems have worked. Now you'll actually be able to get this car with 2 of the diesel engines, a less powerful version and a more powerful version, plus there'll be a V6 petrol and in future a plug-in electric hybrid, and also possibly an RS high performance petrol version, but we shall see about those. Now when you're on the motorway travelling at speed, this thing feels just so relaxing. It's very, very quiet in here. Also, it's super planted, feels really secure. It's a bit like a prop forward, and you can make it even better as well if you have the semi-autonomous driving system. I think it's called the Tool Pack. What that does is you can put on the cruise control, it'll keep you a safe distance from the car in front, it'll even shunt you along in stop-start traffic, and it'll auto steer the car to keep it in lane as well. So what happens when you encounter a twisty road? This car handles very well for a big thing. It's based on the Q7, but it's set up to be more sporty. It does feel a little bit more agile. Now I can put it into dynamic mode and that lowers the air suspension, stiffens it up a bit, and obviously you've got quattro all-wheel drive traction. It's actually surprising how well it goes round corners. But there is, of course, only so much you can ask of this thing because, after all, it is quite large and heavy. One thing you can ask of it, though, is